Good day, sir. We are the Group 2 of E-S2A3. And by the way, I am Midshipman Barlis, together with Midshipman Bacani, Midshipman Castillo, Midshipman De Leon, and Midshipman Diquilla. And we are going to report about Chapter 16, Graph Demography.
Demographic transition theory. The theory of demographic transition hypothesizes that societies typically transition from periods of high birth and death rates to areas of lower birth and death rates as they engage in the process of industrialization from agrarian or pre-industrial. So according to San Juan 2018, yung theory of demographic transition daw ay yung mga societies ay nagmula daw sa pagkakaroon ng mataas na birth rate at mataas din na death rate patungo sa pagkakaroon ng mababa na birth rate at death rate dahil nagkaroon ng transition from pre-industrial or agrarian stage to industrial stage. The demographic transition theory describes the 4 stages of population growth. Before the start of the demographic transition, life was short, births were many, growth was low, and the population was young. So nung bago pa lang nagsisimula ang transition from pre-industrial to industrial, ang buhay daw ng mga tao ay maigsi at ang population ay puro bata kasi mataas ang birth rate at ang death rate. Maigsi ang buhay ng mga tao kasi hindi pa ganun ka-advance ang medical advances nila. During the transition, first mortality and then fertility rate declined, causing population growth rates to accelerate and then to slow again, moving toward low fertility, long life, and an old population. Nung nagsimula na ang transition, nagkaroon ng pagbaba ng mortality at fertility rate at dahil doon ay nagkaroon ng mabilis na paglobo ng population at pagbaba uli nito at dahil sa fluctuations ng mortality rate at fertility rate ay nagkaroon ng balance. At dahil nagkaroon na ng mga paunti-unting mga advances sa healthcare ay humaba yung buhay ng mga tao. The transition began around 1800s with declining mortality in Europe. In much of Europe, the transition somehow coincided, if not by industrialization, the period between 1760 and 1860. Historians agree that the Industrial Revolution was one of the most important events in history, making rapid advancements to the modern age. Sa Europe, nagsimula daw ang transition noong 1800 sa pagbaba ng mortality rate at sinabi din ng mga historians na yung Industrial Revolution ay isa sa mga pinaka-importanteng nangyari sa mundo para sa pag-advance ng ating technology papunta sa modern age. All throughout the demographic transition, countries tend to experience population rises but they differ in the pace of entering the various stages. Ang iba't ibang bansa ay nakakaranas ng biglang paglobo ng kanilang population pero magkakaiba sila ng stage. The basics of demographic population growth depend on the rate of national increase, births versus death, and net migration. So, yung basics ng demographic population growth ay nakadepende daw sa pagkakaiba ng pinapanganak laban sa namamatay at yung pumapasok para magtrabaho sa bansa at yung umaalis ng bansa para magtrabaho.
I'm Midshipman Bacani from E-S2A3. So today I will discuss my part in my report on Chapter 16, Graph Demography. So ang part ko dito sa report na to ay key points and key terms. So let's start. In the first bullet, demography is the statistical study of human population. It encompasses the study of size, structure, and distribution of this population, and spatial and or temporal changes in them in response to birth, migration, aging, and death. So pag sinabi mo demography, ito yung pag-aaral sa human population at parang ang example ko dito ay yung census, 'di ba? Especially pag kada taon o kada buwan ba yon, may mga pumupunta galing sa census, tapos nagsusurvey sila sa bawat bahay-bahay. Tinatanong nila kung ilan yung family members, ano yung trabaho nito, ilan anak mo, sa nag-aaral, ganyan. So yun yung parang example ng demography, yung census. Then next bullet is population change depend on the rate of natural increase and net migration. Yung population change, nagbabago lang siya gamit yung natural increase and net migration. The next third bullet is natural increase is calculated by the fertility rate minus the mortality rate. So yung natural increase is normal siya. Sabihin yung fertility rate, yun yung mga kababaihan na patuloy na anak sa iba't ibang lugar tulad ng mga nanay natin dati. Iba't ibang lugar din sila galing. Sila nagbuntis. Then yung mortality rate, yung mga namamatay kada araw. Tulad ngayong COVID, usually marami namamatay bawat minuto, bawat oras. May dumadating sa ospital. Then pagdating doon, dito na arrival na. Then net migration, depend on the in-migration and out-migration. So ano ba yung in-migration? Yung mga pumapasok dito sa ating bansa. Yung mga nagmamigrate. Yung out-migration, yun yung mga ibang dayuhan na parang nagbakasyon lang dito, may ginawa lang, then umalis agad. Next slide. Key terms. Natural increase population growth that depend on the fertility rate and the mortality rate. So yung sa natural increase, bawat tulad ng sinabi ko ngayon na bawat minuto, bawat oras may pinapanganak. Then tulad ngayon, COVID, marami namamatay dahil nga sa hawaan o yung transfer ng virus. Usually, ang nangyayari, bilis, di ba? Kahit hindi nga 50 meters sa social distancing, mabilis yung transmission ng virus. Sabihin, maraming namamatay talaga kada araw. Gawa nga ng virus na yan. Then, next is the net migration. So, pag sinabi mong net migration, ayan, the difference of the immigrants and immigrants of an area in a period of time divided usually per 1,000 inhabitants. Consider the median population. A positive value represents more people entering the country than leaving it, while a negative value means more people leaving than entering it. So, clarify natin yung pagkakaiba nung immigrant tsaka emigrants. So, yung immigrants, siya yung mga tao na nag-i-stay at nagsisettle na sa bansa natin. Sa bansa natin o sa ibang bansa na pupuntahan nila. Then yung emigrants, yun yung mga tao o yung mga dayuhan kung saan nag-i-stay sila sa isang bansa para lang magtrabaho or mamasyal o temporary lang doon sila sa isang bansa. Yun yung pagkakaiba ng dalawa. Then, next is the demography, the study of human population and how they change. So, yun yung sinabi ko yung kaganina. Example ko dito is census, which is yun. Ganun yung nangyayari, study of human populations. And mortality rate, the number of death per given unit of population of a given period of time. So, yung mortality rate, ito yung mga namamatay. For example nga din ngayon, yung COVID, kadalasan, kada minuto, bawat oras, pag may nahawa, punta sa ospital. So, may example pa pala ako dito. Bakit nga ba dumadami yung mortality rate? Dahil kaya dumadami, unang-una, dahil nga, siyempre, kulang ang pasilidad natin sa ospital. So, pagdating ng pasyente doon sa ospital, minsan, doon na siya namamatay. Doon pa lang sa operating room. Kahit hindi pa siya pinapasok sa emergency room. So, ang pagkakamali ng ating bansa, siyempre, usually, kulang tayo supply, kulang sa lahat, kulang sa equipment, kulang sa tauhan, lalo na yung mga medical frontliners natin, which is sobrang mahirap. Kasi nga, unang-una, ano mangyayari pag may pasyenteng nagka-COVID? Paano kung yung nurse o yung doktor mismo nagka-COVID? So, ano magagawa, di ba? Siyempre, mababawasan yung population natin. Then, yung fertility rate natin, lalong nababawasan din. Halimbawa kasi, syempre, kung ikaw yung babae at ikaw ay may asawa or hindi kayo makapagmahabo dahil iniisip mo kung ano mangyayari. Magiging maayos ba kayo? Magiging maayos ba pag nagbubuntis ka? Pregnant ka ngayong COVID, ano mangyayari? Diba? Kumbaga iniisip nyo rin yung pakikinat nyo during your pregnancy stage. Diba? Kaya minsan hindi na tiwala yung mga tao dun sa hospital eh. Kasi pag pumunta ka ng hospital, di ka naman nakasigasuhin agad eh. Lalo na kung wala kang pera. Tapos sabihin sa'yo, papalabas yung COVID. Positive ka. Pero wala naman talaga yung COVID. Di ba? Gusto lang nila kumita. Di ba? Yun yung mga dahilan ba't mas dumadami yung mortality rate sa ating bansa. Yun lang. Ito lang yung part ko. So, next reporter, in my part, the challenges. The challenge. So, that's my part. Key points and key terms. Thank you. So, I'm Michiman Bahani from E-S2A3.
Sir, I'm Midjiman Joshua Dikia from E-S2A3. For this video, I'll report the challenge. The Philippines, on the other hand, will have to resolve the challenges posed by the country. Slow reduction in fertility rate, particularly among the poorest household, and its highest unemployed and underemployment rate among the young workers, particularly the 20 to 24 years old. A conclusion was made that the Philippines can only benefit from the demographic transition of a lower fertility rate. It is achievable with lesser birth. The country's population will start to establish, and the government will be available to minimize the resources for all citizens. Dito po sir, resign. Ibig sabihin daw dapat sir, dapat daw mabawasan ang fertility rate o panganak ng marami lalo't kung mahirap ang buhay. Halimbawa dito tulad sa ating bansa natin, kung sino pa ang mahirap, siya pa ang maraming anak at minsan umaabot pa sa mga 20 ganon na anak nila, na sobrang mali kasi di nila naaral or na-encounter na yung family planning or di sila mentally informed sa contraceptive. Ano ba ang benepisyo ng Pilipinas kung unti na lang ang panganak at unti na lang ang unemployment na tao? Syempre, magiging stable tayong bansa. Ibig sabihin kayang-kaya na natin punan ang bawat isa kung unti lamang ang mahirap at unemployed sa ating bansa. Yun lang po sir. Maraming salamat.
Five stages of demographic transition theory. Stage 1, total population is low but it is balanced due to high birth rate and high death rate. Countries at this stage will usually be underdeveloped. In stage 2, total population will start to rise because the death rate will start to fall. Birth rate will remain high because death rate fall due to Medical care will be improved in vaccination, scientific improvements, doctors, and new drugs. And sanitation and water supply will be much better, and the quality and security of the food will be improved. There will be a noticeable decrease in child mortality. In stage 3, total population is rising rapidly. The gap between birth and death rate will narrow. Natural increase is high, and death rate will now remain low and steady, but birth rates will fall quickly. Birth rate fall due to increased use of family planning methods. Much lower infant mortality rates will mean that more children will survive and there is less need to have as many babies. Increased opportunity for employment in factories means that fewer people are required to work on the land. Changes to society put more desire on material possession than larger family. Changes to equality means that women are increasingly in the workforce and not staying at home to look after the children. In stage 4, total population is high and growing slowly. It is balanced by a low birth rate and low death rate. Contraception is widely available and there is a social desire to have smaller family. In the last stage, stage 5, total population is still high but starting to decline due to the birth rate falling below the death rate. The population will start to fall as it is no longer replacing itself. The population is aging and will gradually be dominated by older people.
So now we are going to the statement of Caldwell in 2006. Whether you believe that we are headed for environmental disaster and the end of human existence as we know it, or you think people will always adapt to changing circumstances, we can see clear patterns in population growth. Societies develop along a predictable continuum as they evolve from unindustrialized to post-industrial demographic transition theory. So what he implies here is that people are always capable to adapt in any circumstances, and societies are keep on developing as they evolve from an industrialized to post-industrial demographic transition theory.
Good evening. I'm your host today, Mr. Carl Henrich Bohani. So, our headline is the global impact of coronavirus on birth and fertility rate. So, let's start. Our first headline for today is the global impact of coronavirus on births and fertility rates. Some had predicted a baby boom during the lockdown, but initial research suggests birth rates have fallen. Scientists say the data collected point to a 15% drop in birth rates in the United States in the coming months. The picture varies around the world, but all in all, it looks like fewer babies are being born. A higher impact on the well-being of new moms and effect on older generation further down the track. That leaves many wondering that long-term effect COVID-19 could have on fertility rates. So, this is my report, news report. So, I'm your anchor, Mr. Carl Henrich Bahani. That's all. Thank you.
Good evening. I am your co-host, Mr. Giovanni Barlis, and our second headline is about why does Japan work so hard? The Japan's work ethic came back to what's referred to as Japan's economic miracle, which was its dramatic economic growth beginning in the 1950s that propelled it into become the world's second largest economy. The term karoshi means death by overwork is legally recognized by the government and is marked by heart attack, stroke, and suicide due to stress. There are many cases of karoshi reported annually, and some argue that these cases are underreported and that the real number could exceed up to 10 times. Another reason that there's pressure on people to work hard is because the Japan's economy is in danger, and also Japan lost its spot as the second world's largest economy to China in 2011. Japan is dealing with the labor crisis, and since Japanese people dedicated most of their lives in their job, the population is aging fast and its birth rate is in decline. And that means the total population of Japan is going down. And in the next 50 years, is projected to shrink by nearly third. The population is expected to go from 127 million in 2015 to just 88 million in 2065. There's two likely ways the nation can compensate for labor shortage. It can be either immigrants or robots. This is your news anchor, Giovanni Barlis, reporting.